God plays a role in that. And that's what we're going to talk about. What is a godly marriage? What exactly is a godly marriage? Because at the heart of God's design for marriage, if you think about that, God really put marriage in, Adam and Eve, and he basically joined them. So it's something further than procreation. Okay, everyone thinks marriage, we're going to procreate. God gave us that gift so we can continue to live, and the population can expand, and that's, absolutely. But the husband-wife relationship illustrates the relationship between Christ and the church. And that's the way we have to look at it. It's not just something, I'm old enough now, I'm going to get married, going to get a partner, we're going to have 2.5 kids, we're going to have 2 cars, we're going to have a 3-bedroom house. And that's the way the world looks at it. But we have to look at it a little different as Christians, because you cannot start a relationship with somebody saying, what are the traits of a godly husband? What are the traits of a godly wife? You can't start a relationship like that, because what's going to happen is they put you on the offensive. You start to look for things in people, and they may not show those traits. They may not have those traits. Instantly, you're marking people off your list that they don't even know what you're talking about, probably. Or they may be trying to be a godly person, or a godly woman, or a godly man, and they're just not there yet. And so you're immediately knocking them off your list. So if you're married and you start saying, is my wife godly? Is my husband godly? The first thing you're going to start doing is tearing down your spouse. Rather than focus on creating a godly marriage, you start tearing them down. Well, why aren't you like this? Why can't you do this like so-and-so does? Why can't you read what I read and get it? You start tearing them down. Now, a lot of us have been in marriages before, and we blew it. I don't know if same with you guys, but I wasn't good. I thought I was. I thought I was all that in a bag of chips. I could do no wrong, but you know what? I was wrong. So we have to really focus on what God does, what He says, and how He is intervening in our marriage. And if we let Him intervene, it's a much better place to be, I promise you. So, while most of the characteristics apply to either husband or wife, I want you to ask a question to yourself, okay? Now, as a counselor, you can ask Cindy this. Usually I hate I sentences. I hate that. I. It's just one of those things where they're so self-serving, they're so self-centered, they can't see past the I, right? But do I show characteristics of a godly marriage? That's a good I question. Do I show characteristics of a godly marriage? Am I a godly spouse? If you stop and you really ask yourself these questions, you can inflect. You actually can look in instead of looking out. Is he a godly husband? Is he meeting my needs? Is he taking care of me? No, let's stop for that. Let's back up. Am I a godly spouse? That's what we want to talk about. That's what we want to do. If you begin with good I questions, God can begin to mold your heart. And that's important. We need to understand that and change your marriage. Now, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not saying you have a bad marriage. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the Lord dropped this in my spirit to talk about. So whether it's you or someone online, we've all been through this. And we're all growing in this. No one's perfect. But when you talk about it and you ask yourself some pretty important questions, you can get a lot accomplished. You can solve a lot. Ezekiel 11, verse 19. And I will give them one heart and put a new spirit within them. And I will take the heart of stone out of their flesh and give them a heart of flesh. Now, what is a godly marriage? It is not a perfect marriage. It is not a perfect marriage. Godly marriage is simply a marriage where one or both spouses are leaning into God. Either one of you or both of you are leaning into God. Now, you're trying to do marriage God's way. Now, have you heard about the God pyramid in marriage? You have God at the top, and you're both down here. If you both focus on God, eventually you're going to come together. And that's the way we talk about the God triangle in Christian counseling or positive psychology, or, it's awesome. Because if you focus on God, you will pull together. Okay? That's what we talk about. Now, the first thing I want to talk about in a godly marriage is, are you saved? Good question, right? Good place to start. We need to make sure we're saved, right? But salvation is one of the many characteristics of godly marriage, because without God in your life, there will be no godly marriage. So if you don't invite God into your marriage, you will not have a godly marriage. So a lot of what I'm talking about is elementary, okay? It's basic stuff, or foundation. Foundational things. Everything the Lord is saying is foundational to me, and it's what He's saying to talk about. A lot of people would blow right by this and say, oh, my marriage is good. Never had an argument in 20 years. Praise God, if you can have a marriage with no arguments in 20 years. So, ideally, both husband and wife have been saved, and they're living their lives for God. That's the ideal situation, right? Now, 1 Peter 3:1. In the same way, you wives, be submissive to your own husbands, so that even if any of them are disobedient to the word, they may be won without a word by the behavior of their wives. Boy, here's that submissive word. Who likes the word submissive? Anybody? Now, as Christians, we know submissive to have a different connotation. It's different. We learn to submit to the Lord, right? That's what we're supposed to do to our spouses. If both of you submit, then guess what? You're each serving each other. Now, I was going to have Farron get in a recliner up here, sit back, and tell Marcella, get me a beer. All right? Now, how many, okay, see? Farron happily bows out of that. All right. Why is that so commonplace? Why is it, have you been around people before at a social event or just hanging out sometimes, and have you seen one spouse talk to the other one like they were just a dog or a slave? Hey, go get me this, Go, no, it's the wrong one. What are you, an idiot? I've seen that, and it just hurts my heart, because that is not a godly marriage. Nobody is over each other. Now, 1 Peter 3:1, wives, be submissive to your own husbands, so that even if any of them are disobedient to the word, they may be won without a word by the behavior of their wives. Listen, we're a living example to each other. We're supposed to be an example. People miss it. We mess up. We make mistakes. I do not want my feet held to the fire, because I've messed up many times. So, submissive. People hate that word, but there's a reason that we have submissive in our vocabulary. And we talked about this today at lunch a little bit. If you do not submit to a teacher, to an instructor, to someone trying to help you, you will never learn. You're unteachable. If you think you've got it all down, you think you're all that, you will never learn. So, that's why you don't train alpha dogs. You can't do it. They're the alpha dog. They won't accept authority in most cases. That's why as a police officer training dogs, we would always get Bravo or Charlie dogs, not alpha. Never alpha. Because they'll just turn around and bite you if they don't want to do it. So, what if you're saved and your spouse is lost? Is that fixable? Now, our dear, dear friends, the Donnellys in Scotland, I don't know if you know, we talk about them quite a bit. They were one such couple. I don't know how much I can share about that, but she pretty much kept him prayed up, kept loving him, and he was just out and about, and didn't really look like he was coming around. But you know what? You look at him now. I love that couple. I mean, they are two of the best people on this earth, and they are closer than you could possibly be, with the Lord right there in the middle of them. And it all happened because of her prayers. She didn't get proud. She could have easily said, you know what? This is causing me a bunch of heartache. This is causing me a bunch of strife. I'm out. And probably a lot of people would have said, you know what? Yeah, you need to go. Now, we'll talk about that in a minute. But they didn't. Stuck together. Wonderful, wonderful man and woman of God. I mean, we learned so much from those guys. And I highly encourage you to get to know the Donnellys. So, maybe your spouse claims to be saved, but there's little evidence. Or they're saved, but they're not mature Christians. Now, have you experienced that before? I mean, you don't have to raise your hand. Just I see you nodding. I see you don't look at each other. Stop. It's okay. It's not ideal, but what in life is ideal? I mean, are your finances always perfect? No. Is your house always clean? No. I mean, not our house. I wasn't saying that to you, Rebecca. But if you look up godly marriage verse or godly marriage scriptures, you'll find that God always gives us an honest picture of real, flawed marriages throughout the entire Bible. And there's a reason for that. As we read, as we listen, as we learn, we have a guideline. Television brought us perfect marriages. They brought us the perfect house. It's always clean. The grass never needs cutting like the Brady Bunch. It's AstroTurf. Television, I mean, if we're worshiping the television, then there's a lot of reason why people are missing the mark. But the Bible will always tell us the truth. It is the truth. So, as flawed human beings, we'll each be in a different place in our walk with God. And just because you've been good partners for years, you've been through a lot of things together, it doesn't mean you're at the same place. Now, particularly in healing. You know what I mean? You may be like, we got this, come on. The Lord provided this. But your partner, your spouse might be like, you know what? I just don't get it. I don't see it. Now, it's a different place. It's a different walk. So how do we help in that situation? You know what we do? We love. And we show them. We don't get so involved in what they're struggling with that we start to lose our joy and lose our hope and lose our peace. That is not what the Lord has in mind. That's not what He's intending. What He wants is for you to be a light in that dark place. And I promise you, at some point it'll click where they say, wait, what are they? I don't understand how they're happy, and you know what I mean? And when they get to the point where they're saying, Lord, I just can't do it anymore. The Lord says, good, now I can. So, don't crawl in the trenches with them. I learned this. I learned this the hard way with my son. Trying my best to change his mind about certain things, to get him out of certain things, and you can't do it. You'll never be able to do it. You cannot change another person. They have to want to change. So you, with your walk with the Lord, you enjoy life, no matter what the circumstances. You enjoy your walk in that relationship. Now, there might be certain things you can't do, but don't let that steal your joy, steal your hope, because you may be that life preserver that they need to float. And it may not seem like it, but I'm telling you right now, people watch you, people listen to you when you think no one's around. And so if it's your partner, if it's your spouse, listen, they need you. They need you. So don't give up. All right. Number 2, for a godly marriage, read the Bible. Read the Bible. It's not enough to be saved. That's one characteristic of a godly marriage. Now, you really need to spend time with God. Studying the Bible is a characteristic of a godly marriage. Through Bible study, you get to know God's voice. This is huge in a marriage. Do you read the Bible together? Do you share verses? Now, I probably don't do this as much as we should because I get in there and I'm like, I'm starting to read. And she'll be saying something to me, asking me about it or something, and I'm so focused, and I have to say, hey, listen, I'm sorry, I was just in depth. And then we talk about it, which is basically the same thing. Study, talk, do this together, grow together. Without realizing it, you are getting closer and closer to God by studying together. Pick out verses and share them. Sometimes at night you can say, hey, pick 2 verses that you think the Lord's put on your heart. And then after I'll find mine in about 2 minutes, and about 3 hours later she found hers. And then I've actually, sorry. So, but it's fun. It's an opportunity to get to know each other a little better because you get to see how their mind works when it comes to spiritual things. Because don't take for granted that just because you're married, you do everything alike. I mean, we all have been married a long time. No, that's not true. But it's neat to kind of get an insight into their mind about how they think about spiritual things. It's really cool. God has a plan for your life, and God has a plan for your marriage. It's not a fluke. It's not a coincidence. Listen, you are walking out the will, God's will, if you're listening, if you're studying, and if you're listening to His voice. Once you get to know His voice, you know which direction to go. It's no more of this, what should I do? What should I do? I hate that feeling. And I did that so much in my life. Well, I'm just going to try to do the best I can. I'm going to try to do this. Now listen, when you hear God's voice, when I heard God's voice, and He said, do this, wow, it was awesome. It was freeing because I submitted to God. I said, lead me and I'll follow you. And it's always the next step and the next step. If you ever get in your mind, I've got to jump 10 paces ahead, it's not God. God doesn't work like that. Seed, time, and harvest. Okay? You'll never know what God's plan is for you and your marriage unless you get to know God. So, read the Bible. Study the Bible. Jeremiah 29, verse 11. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for calamity, to give you a future and a hope. Now, I'm going to tell you something you might not know, but most of you probably already know this. God has a plan for you. He's got a plan for us, right? The enemy also has a plan for your life, or a plan to keep you from God's plan for your life. The enemy is trying constantly. Now, if you're not a Christian, if you're not a Bible student, if you're not in ministry, the enemy doesn't mess with you too much because he doesn't want you to change the path you're on. He wants you to keep going down that hill. He wants you going down that wide path. He's not going to mess with you too much, I'm telling you. I've heard many people say, it's much easier being whatever. Yeah, absolutely. Once you commit to the Lord, you're going to have things thrown at you right and left. Because He's trying to keep you from reaching what God has put. The whole reason He made you here is for a purpose, and He's trying to get you off that path. So, God wants you to have a healthy marriage, which is why all throughout Scripture He lays out marriage principles. I mean, they're all through the Bible. The enemy wants you divorced, depressed, and far from God's will and God's plan. Now, if that's happened in your past, it's not over. You're not a failure. It's not done. Listen, God, whose grace and mercy has been there through thick and thin, has always been there to pick you up, brush you off. Like He did when He came into my office. He picked me up. I was on my face. And He wrapped His arms around me. And He hugged me. That's our brother Jesus. That's our Father God. So I always picture Him that way. Whenever I'm praying or talking or feeling bad, I picture Him picking me up. I can just see Him just brushing me off and going, you know what? It's okay. Rebecca had a dream or a vision one time where God just blew on her. She had on dirty rags and dirty clothes, and God just went, and it was just golden armor all underneath. And that's the way He sees us. And that's the way we need to see ourselves. So, the enemy wants divorce. He wants destruction. When he can get divorce into the story, then he can take down the entire family. He can try and destroy your children. He can try and destroy your grandchildren. He can try and destroy all of these things once he gets a foothold. That's why it's important to have a godly marriage and to work toward a godly marriage. It's worth it, right? Any good work you do is worth it. Now, prayer time. Number 3, prayer time. Let's say that you're saved, you're already studying, you're doing that. The next logical step is prayer time. James 5:16. Confess your faults to one another and pray one for another that ye may be healed. The effectual, fervent prayer of the righteous man availeth much. Now, prayer is how we talk to God. It's not hard. It's not you got to get down, you got to get these anointed pillows on the ground. You got to get this anointed water and oil and sprinkle it around the pillows. Get down on your knees, and you have to be in this position on the ground. And now listen, if that's the way you want to roll, that's fine. All it is talking to God. I mean, a conversation like we're having right now. Hey, what's up? How are you doing? I don't care how you greet people. I don't care how that's the way we talk to God. People get so religious about the way they talk to God. It's a conversation. And it's a two-way conversation. It's not, Andrew, one of my favorite things he always talks about, and just about everybody else, is the shopping list approach. Oh, God, I really need this. I need that. I need this. I need this. I need this. I need this. And listen, God is so sweet and wonderful, He'll listen. But I think it was Robert Morris I heard saying that one time, he said the Lord spoke back and said, I just want you to come and just talk to me about things. Not always asking. Of course we need things. Of course we need to ask things. But let's just spend some time talking to Him first. Let's just say, Lord, I love you. Thank you for my beautiful wife that I love. Thank you for the kids, most of them. Thank you for everything that you've been doing in our lives. I just like that. That's just me. I like that. I lay there in bed in the morning, I wake up, and I just want to thank Him. Now, we talk about prayers. I mean, we're not talking about those 3-word prayers, God help me, God change him, bless this food, protect them, Lord, change her, please. Those are okay. But I'm saying, it's a conversation. It's not bullet comments. Let's talk a little bit. And it's wonderful. Prayer's simple. Just talk to God. That's all you got to do. Who remembers when you first met the love of your life? Now, when I met Rebecca, we could talk for hours. I mean, it was just a talk. I didn't care what it was about. We would talk. We would drive all over Texas and Oklahoma, and we would just sit there and talk and talk. And we didn't realize, we drove from Houston one time back to Oklahoma City, and I didn't even realize we were already back. And we were just talking. Listen, that's what it's like to talk with God. You just talk to Him about stuff. I'll never forget that. We used to just talk. And when we would call each other on the phone, we would talk and talk and talk and talk. Well, yeah, we would talk. But that's what it is, because I loved her and I wanted to hear her voice. Isn't that a good thing for God? Don't you love God? Don't you just want to hear His voice? That's what relationship is all about. God loves you the same way and wants to hear your voice. So let's just talk to Him. I mean, set aside some time, whatever time. We talked about sanctuary. We talked about in January about 20 minutes in 2020. We talked about just spend 20 minutes every morning with the Lord, just talking to Him. And I promise you it'll change your life. Absolutely will change your life. Now, the more you pray, your faith will grow. You'll develop even more characteristics of a godly marriage. So, all this counts toward godly marriage. All these things we're talking about. And number 4 has to be your favorite, because I know it's mine. Fasting. Everybody knows I'm on keto, so I'm doing the intermittent fasting thing. So, all right. It doesn't matter how faithful you are to Bible study and prayer. It doesn't matter if you're both saved. There will be hard things in your marriage. I don't care how good your relationship is, how good your marriage is. There will be hard things in your marriage. Because anytime two flawed human beings live together, tempers will flare. Now, can anyone in here say that you've never been in a heated argument with your husband or spouse? There, I threw that in there. Okay. The norm, the cultural norm, is to walk away from it. If you're getting in arguments, you know, oh, I can't stand that guy, or I can't stand that girl, whatever. The norm is to walk away from it. You know what? I made a mistake. You know, I'm just going to walk away from this. I think I still have time. I'm young enough. I still got some good looks. I'm just going to walk away from this. I'll find someone better. Someone that doesn't argue with me. Someone that won't, you know, bring up every bad thing I do. Now, what else do we do? In any areas of our life, we walk away. If our job is too hard, you know what? I'm going to find another job. We walk away. What about, I'm going to find a new church. I don't agree with what they're saying. I don't want to do that. Now listen, there's a time to leave that church, absolutely. If you've gone to God about it, you've prayed about it, and the Lord says, you know what? It's time to move. It's time to go. But how many times do you see people that come to church and on a whim, they're like, you know what? I don't agree with what they said about sowing. I think they're asking for money way too much. Now, is that a legitimate reason? I mean, that's up to you. I'm not going to say yes or no. I'm just saying, think about it. What about a family member? They're crazy. They are nuts. The only time they ever talk to me is when they want money. You know what? I'm not going to talk to them. I'm not going to call them. I'm not going to do anything. Now, if they're a physical harm to you, it might be a good idea to put some distance between you. But our norms in our culture today are to walk away from things. Marriage is something that we need to work on. Get with God. Let's be examples. Let's be examples. Okay? Now, fasting doesn't have to be complicated. Fasting helps us take things that we love in life. Let me put it another way. It's simply giving up something that you seek satisfaction in, and you give that up for God. Something that you love, something that, you know, let's say social media, Facebook. Let's say that you just can't stop being on Facebook. You know, if you said, you know what, Lord, I'm going to fast this week. I'm going to give up those things that I seek satisfaction in. I'm going to give up Facebook for 1 week so I can spend more time with you. That's fasting. Food, absolutely. Cake, absolutely. So let's take the things in our life that we're putting so much focus on, so much emphasis on, and I'm not talking about godly things. Let's say, you know what, Lord, I'm going to set that aside for however long you decide and spend that time with the Lord. That's what fasting is. So, number 5, fellowship. You cannot have a godly marriage alone. You cannot have a godly marriage alone. Culture has spread its propaganda far and wide. You cannot have a godly marriage alone. So, everywhere you look, there are ads trying to lead you to commercials, tempting you for discontentment, lust. You know, all of these things, you know, the commercials where the guys are always idiots, you know, bumbling, boy, I can't do this, and the wife comes in to save the day. That is a divisive plan by the enemy. It's to spread discontentment. I'm telling you. Those are the kind of things you have to watch out for in your relationship. You know, or the neighbors, so-and-so, oh, look what they have. Why can't we have that? You know, my no-good bum of a husband is not bringing in enough money, so Everyone else in the neighborhood gets to do that, and we don't. Listen, that is a plan from the enemy. So we have to build each other up. We have to be in each other's corner. We have to fight for each other. In your marriage, you need to be surrounded by like-minded people trying to live life God's way. Like-minded people. Okay? If you've ever wondered why you should go to church, there's a good reason right there. Like-minded people trying to live life God's way. All right? Now, if you go to a church and you're trying to live a godly life, here's the thing. There are couples there that need you as much as you need them. Let's look at it from that perspective. A lot of people look at, well, I can't remember the I. Well, what can I get? What can I get if I go to this church? There are couples there that need you as much as you need them. They need your influence, just like you need theirs. Listen, that's what the body does, right? No, we're supposed to fit together like this. It's not one way. It's two ways. Conversation is two ways. If there's ever a conversation like this, you're either in basic training or you're not having a healthy marriage, a godly marriage. It has to go both ways. Now, in the safe circles of churches where you go to be around like-minded people, it creates a safe place where you can talk about real marriage problems. And I want to ask you to raise your hand, but how many of you have marriage problems or had marriage problems that you couldn't talk to anyone about? It's embarrassing. You don't want to be looked at differently. Listen, in church, we're supposed to be able to go there and talk about real marriage problems, issues, without judgment. So, maybe there's a couple there that's been through or going through something you've already been through. You've walked it out. You've been there with the Lord. They can learn from you. So, let's keep that in mind. Number 6, godly friends. And I'll tell you this, godly friends are the ones that send you keto pancakes. Those are good, by the way. It's not enough to just go to church with other Christians. You need godly friends. Okay? Godly friendships are different than friendships with your lost friends. How many know what I'm saying? You have lost friends that will think differently. Proverbs 27, verse 17. Iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Now, I'm going to read some bullet points to you here. Lost friends will give you cultural advice when you have marriage problems. Godly friends will point you back to Scripture. So, lost friends will give you cultural advice. Well, this is what Dear Abby says. This is what Ellen says to do. Where godly friends will point you back to Scripture. Lost friends will agree with you and say just what you want to hear. Godly friends will confront you when you're wrong and point you back to God. Lost friends will not want you to fight for your marriage when things get hard. Godly friends will remind you God is with you and will fight for you. Godly friends will fight for you. Lost friends will question when you fight for your marriage. They're like, why do you even bother? You've been through, all you do is argue. Just go. That's what lost friends will do. Godly friends will pray for you, text you verses, and be there to talk when things get hard. Amen. Lost friends will tempt you to do things that are against God's way. Godly friends will encourage you to walk with God and still have fun His way. Cruises are fun God's way. Biggest amen all night. Thank you for that. All right. Spending too much time with lost friends is detrimental to your faith and your marriage. Be careful. And I've got like a million verses to cover that, but be careful. All right. Number 7, commitment. Why'd you get married? Were you in love? Did you imagine that love would last forever and never change? I mean, come on. When I wrote these points down, I was thinking, why did I get married? Oh, yeah, love forever. We got the matching necklaces. We got all that, Went and got pedicures together. All that good thing. Well, how long did it take you to realize the emotion of love comes and goes and cannot be relied on? Now, some of you are thinking, wait. The emotion of love comes and goes and cannot be relied on. Okay? Matthew 19, verse 6. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. What? Therefore God has joined together, let no man separate. A marriage whose foundation is the emotion of love will fail. A marriage whose foundation is the emotion of love will fail. It's an emotion. To have a successful marriage, you must make your foundation commitment. Now, commitment to God, commitment to the covenant of marriage, and the commitment to choosing love. Here's the deal. Love is something you can choose every day. If you get in an argument, you get in a fight, you can choose love. You can come crawling back. I'm sorry. I love you. I love you too. Still sleeping on the couch. You can choose love. The deep love that we learn from 2 Corinthians 13 can define your marriage if you stand firm on commitment. Commitment to God, commitment to covenant of marriage, and commitment to choosing love. So, all right, commitment is the key to all characteristics of a healthy marriage because it becomes a value that drives us to keep going, keep trying, keep fighting. So it's a value that we get to keep going, keep trying, and keep fighting. Number 8, submission to God. Here's submission again, one more time. Submission. People hate that word, I'm telling you, but when we understand what submission means, it's powerful. Now, God calls us to submit to Him, which is different than salvation. Submitting to God is different than salvation. I mean, yes, at the time of salvation, we submit to God as Lord and Savior, right? A beautiful experience that leaves us set on fire. Remember that? I'm on fire. I remember Carmen. Well, I was on fire. I used to listen to Carmen. Used to fire me up. Anybody remember Carmen? Got pictures out in the lobby there. All right. You have, you first get saved. You got this desire. You got this deep desire to read, to pray. Read the Bible. You'd go out and where's Michelle? Did she leave? Goes out on the street, and on fire for that. I'm not saying that she's like this. I'm saying when you first get saved, you can always describe people as, they're on fire. But when that fire dies down, you still need submission. That's when submission comes in. When you're working, you're at a job, you're on the clock. You're like, you know what, I'm going to get on my Facebook and on the clock. That little prick inside of you, in your spirit, he goes, are you stealing time? Are you cheating in a way? That type thing. Then you think you can either submit to God and get back to work, or you could submit to yourself and sin. So submission is important even after the fire dies down. We have to submit. James 4:7. Submit, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Submission to God is a daily choice we make when we are tempted to do life our own way. Well, I tell you what, I can come up with some amazing verses when I'm half asleep. They're not biblical, but man, I tell you, that's where I got that bumper sticker last week. All right. God's got a way to do life. He has a plan. Sorry, I'm stepping on your cable here. It's easier to try to be your own God than it is to let God be God. And we try and talk ourselves out of doing what God wants us to do. We want to be the God. If I were God, I'd tell my wife everything I don't like about her, commanding her to change to please me. if I were God. You see the difference there? If I were God, I'd tell my wife to change to please me. Because I'm God now. No, it doesn't work like that, even though some people think it does. God's saying, submit to your wife. Love her for who she is. Wash her feet. Rub her corns. That was just an example, folks. She had those removed. Okay. We had a joke about someone's feet smelling like Fritos the other night. I can't remember. All right. When I'm submitted to God, I speak the truth in love about many things, but I let love cover a multitude of sins. So when I'm submitted to God, I speak the truth in love about many things, but I let love cover a multitude of sins. Submission to God develops the characteristics of a godly marriage in beautiful ways when you submit. Number 9 is submission to each other. Now, the Bible tells us to be submitted to every believer. So how does that work? Philippians 2, 3 through 5. Do nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility of mind, regard one another as more important than yourselves. Do not merely look out for your own personal interests, but also for the interests of others. Have this attitude in yourself, which is also in Christ Jesus. I want what I want when I want it. Have you ever felt like that? I want what I want when I want it. Yes. I'm not going to answer for you. Yes, you have. I have. I went and bought a truck one time knowing that I shouldn't do it because I wanted it. And I want it now. What was that? Veruca Salk? Willy Wonka, anybody? Okay. So, I want a golden goose. Anyway, got this truck knowing I shouldn't get this truck, but I needed a truck. I wanted a truck. And that thing turned out to be the biggest Ishmael. You make decisions based on peace. I pray about everything now. You get peace in that. God's, it's like getting a green light from God, good. But boy, I tell you, when you get that and you have to convince yourself and talk yourself into it and talk your wife into it, probably not a good idea. Right? We've all been there. So, not going to do that again. God tells us repeatedly, let others be first. I mean, my whole life, I've been a person that would let the ladies and kids go first eat or have a chair or do those things. But I'm telling you, that is not the way the world operates. I'll never forget Thanksgiving one time. We were standing in line. And all of my brothers have been in the military, and we all know you always let your soldiers eat first. Always let your soldiers eat first. So we were sitting there talking, and I forget who it was, man. One of the in-laws. We prayed, and before the prayer was over, they were, getting to the front of the line, getting mashed potatoes, and ran over one of the grandmas. And so I'm a people watcher. I kind of watch people like that. You can tell a servant's heart sometimes, or you can tell when someone puts food as something in front of everyone else. And you know what I mean? So, now I'm not watching you eat. Don't start feeling paranoid. Growing in faith often requires me to lay down my desires at the foot of the cross and show others selfless love. So when I'm telling you, people are watching you, people are listening to you. Selfless love. Let others go first. Very simple. So in marriage, how does that look? So let's say I want the toilet paper put on the roll, flipped over the top, okay? Now, let's say my wife just sets the roll on the floor instead of puts it on. I could feel her burning inside my... Now, when I come into the bathroom and I see the roll on the floor, I wrote this after midnight, guys, so bear with me. Now when I go into the bathroom, I see that roll on the floor, I put it on myself. Okay? Submission happens in small acts of love and acceptance and builds a happy, healthy marriage. Now, is the toilet paper roll really more important than building up my spouse in our marriage? No. So when I would put the toilet paper roll on backwards, where the roll came out the back, I will be honest, Rebecca covered me in love. She would just turn it around or do whatever. And I learned a lot from her doing that. In the military, you were just glad to have toilet paper. So I was like, what's the big deal? Top or bottom? Who puts it on over the top? Be honest. Raise your hand. You're all wrong. Okay. No. I always thought it went the other way because it's easier to unspools, right? So is there a benefit of having it come over the top? I got you. Okay. All right. But I will say Rebecca covered me with grace and love when I just didn't get it. And I was like, it's just toilet paper. So I don't know if she's noticed or not, but I started putting it on this way. I started this morning. All right. How do I submit to a spouse I don't respect about things we disagree on? Big problem in marriage today. There's a thorn that can get in our foot and get infected. And it's not respecting. Men desire respect from women. Men crave respect from their spouse. Huge. Huge. Women desire security. Women desire security, and it's huge. Most of the counseling I've ever done was over those two things right there. In a godly marriage, if you ever throw those things out, I don't respect you, you've just chipped away at part of the foundation that you built. Now, I'm not saying it can't be rebuilt, but I'm saying it's going to take some love and repair. Same thing with security. So, one time I was counseling, and like I say, I wrote this last night. Things were just coming and coming. There was a couple we knew where the husband was trying to find the right job. He hopped around from job to job for a long time, and every time he quit a job without a new job, they were in financial trouble. You know, they struggled because he wasn't there long enough to really get anything going. So every time he took a new job, it was a different schedule and a new routine for their family, and they had a few kids. So very difficult. Now, that was a hard season in their marriage because she struggled to respect him. Can you see that? Can you understand? Something like that is like a thorn bush waiting to put a thorn in your hand, just waiting to be infected. So, bitterness, resentment grew because she needed stability and security in her life because women value that. It's what they value. They needed financial stability, but in the end, God showed her that her husband wasn't trying to hurt them. He was really trying to find his place. He was just trying to find his place. And that comes a lot easier for a guy if you have the support of your wife. It's hard to see the other side because all you know is you. But when we move closer to God, amazingly, God gives us a glimpse into what they're feeling, what they're seeing, which a million words out of their mouth can never show you. But a one flash from God gives you an insight. And once you understand that he was just trying to find his place so he could be happy and do the best job he could. And it wasn't about her. But it did put the family through some difficult times. But it's much easier to go through those difficult times together as a united front, as a family. God grew her character through her husband, even though he wasn't exhibiting all the traits of a godly husband. In her eyes, in her mind, God grew her character because she submitted and said, what do we need to do to get through this? That is how godly marriage will grow in that situation. What about if your spouse is living in sin? What about If they have a gambling habit where they have to spend all your monthly income on bills gambling because, oh, I'm going to win the big one. I'm going to double this money. What if there's pornography in? They're battling pornography. What if they're struggling with that? How do you live with a spouse that's going through that? Listen, a submissive wife is not a doormat. A submissive wife is not a doormat. Not something for you to wipe your feet on, use it to clean your feet, and then, I'm out of here. Please understand that. I don't know where that came from. I mean, it's just ungodly to its core to treat another person like that, specifically someone that's supposed to submit to you. And you abuse that? No, absolutely not. You can submit to your spouse while setting healthy biblical boundaries. So there are 5 steps I recommend for anyone in difficult marriage situations. Submit to God. Take the issue to God for direction. These are sub. Find a good Christian counselor to talk to or a pastor about healthy boundaries. Okay? Healthy boundaries. What did we hear the other day? It was on Facebook about healthy boundaries. Do you remember that? Okay, so really good, and it tied right in with what I was talking about. It's if you make a boundary with somebody and they say that that's unchristian-like, then you probably need to not have anything to do with them. Because as a Christian, you're allowed to set healthy boundaries. People think you're supposed to turn the cheek all the time, and that's, listen, yeah, there's a time and a place, but you set healthy Christian boundaries, and you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to tell someone, hey, I don't want any more of that. You don't talk to me that way. That's a healthy boundary. So, have a difficult conversation with your spouse about the ungodly thing that's in your marriage. Talk to them about the pornography. Talk to them about the gambling, whatever, the smoking. Have a difficult conversation. It may be difficult, but getting that out there and talking about it, just getting it out there heals a lot of things. You keep something buried inside long enough, it'll fester. I kept my PTSD inside me so long, I started to have nightmares. I woke up one night, and I was out of bed, standing at my window, looking outside while I was asleep. And I heard gunshots. And I remember I came to, and I turned around, and my son, who was about 4 years old at the time, was standing behind me. He goes, "Are you okay, Daddy?" And at that point, I said, "Listen, I got to get this out." Talking about my experiences helped heal. Helped me heal. You have to talk about those things. Do not bury them. They'll fester. All right? Not with just anybody. Find you a good Christian counselor or a pastor, someone you trust, all right? Be honest with your church about the situation you're involved in and get help while you fight for your marriage. Fight for that. Fight for that marriage. Fight for it. It's worth it, I promise you. Unrealistic expectations, number 10. Typically what I do is I'll advise couples set aside expectations for a season when they're in a difficult marriage, because we tend to expect perfection. If you're in a difficult marriage and you expect things to be perfect, no one will ever live up to that. There will always be grounds for fighting and arguing. There's always kindling there to start a fire. So the first thing I usually tell them is set aside all your expectations for one season, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever. Say, listen, I'm not going to expect you to do anything perfectly, and you don't expect me to do. And that helps you see a little more realistically, and it helps you understand, listen, I'm never going to be perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. Only one perfect person, what they do, they crucified him, right? Psalms 11, verse 5. The Lord tests the righteous and the wicked, and the one who loves violence, his soul hates. So I put for number 11, godly thinking. Godly thinking, because you're going to go through difficult seasons, and it's tempting to think of every flaw your spouse has. You're going to go through a season where you think of every flaw they have. Listen, resist the temptation. Do not go there in your mind. If you go there in your mind, you plant a seed. Do not go there. Resist the temptation. Negative thinking, critical thinking, fault finding leads to words that speak death. It will kill your marriage the same way you can curse a fig tree. Do not go there in your mind, and do not speak words of death. I know you're not trying to, but it's what it leads to. Philippians 4 verse 8, finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence, and if anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things. The first step to being sure you speak words of life is to be sure you think words of life. Think about what you say before you say it. Don't fly off at the handle. Don't just let those angry words come out. And that was hard for me. That was hard for me. I let these angry, bitter words come out that I didn't even mean. But you know how hard it is to get those back? And say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Well, why'd you say it? Think about what you say. I'm telling you, take a few seconds if you're angry. I don't mean walk off and walk away. I mean just take a few steps away, collect yourself. I'm telling you, that does more harm than you think. Keep your thinking in line with Philippians 4:8. Dwell on the happy things, the good things. Proverbs 18, verse 21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat of its fruit. Speak life into your marriage. Speak life into your marriage. Speak life into your bank account. Speak life into your church, your pastor. Speak life into your brothers and sisters. Okay? All right. I'm going to skim through these. I'm keeping you guys a little long. Sorry. Active listening. Listen. Don't be distracted by your phone, the computer. Don't be distracted by everything that's going on. If you spend time with your spouse, listen. Two ways, remember conversation? Speaking and listening. Not necessarily in that order. Okay? Active listening. All right? Time alone. You need to spend time alone. Listen, guys. Kids do not come first in a marriage. Kids do not come first in a marriage. God comes first. Then your spouse. Then your kids. You get so many mixed up relationships and marriages where kids come first and you are neglecting your spouse because of those kids. Oh, if the kid wants this, the kids get it. No. It does not work that way. It causes strife and division in your relationship with your spouse. Time alone. Make a date night. Keep the date. Don't talk about anything bad. Nothing, no bills, nothing on date night. Make a date night, laugh, joke, watch something funny, whatever. Bring us food, we'll have a good time. Always have fun together. Always have fun together. And moving right along. I'm trying to skip some stuff here. Apologize. Okay. If any of these things I'm talking about overwhelm you or you're not sure with, you don't have to do them all at once. Pick one. Just pick one of them and work on it. If you're thinking about getting married again, I want to just stress to you, don't look for someone perfect. You won't be the case. Look for someone you can grow with in God. Look exactly for someone that loves the Lord as much as you do, that places a priority on God. You know, it's been a long day. Most of you guys have been here all day with us. And I just wanted to say,